Well, Big D back and better than ever as we maybe recap week one of the NFL season. And, one of us is happy that the Jags are 1-0, and one of us is not happy because his beloved Miami Dolphins pooped the bed against the Indianapolis Colts. Before I bring in Alex, please subscribe, like, and share with Monkey's Reference Sports YouTube page. See my content. Also, check out the Big D podcast. Join with me the leader of the PK League, and if you in the PK League with us, I got a bad beat this week, losing by 400ths of a point. Throwing you Jalen Hurts kneel downs.
Yeah, man. Well, it's always nice to be back, Dylan. I can't believe we finally made it to week one of the NFL season. And yeah, you weren't kidding, man. You had the Jalen Hurts kneel downs and then Xavier Worthy getting 0 points to give you the L by less than half a point. It was just unbelievable. I felt so bad for you, man.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking of letting number 87 maybe spend the night in the Amazon
Yeah.
for tackling Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know Taylor Swift said something about being excited about seeing Xavier Worthy on that New Heights podcast. So, maybe he took that personally. I don't know, but we are. It's been an interesting weekend for me. From the ultimate high of highs of week one of the NFL season, Christmas Day, New Year's Day, the ultimate just relief of getting through another NFL offseason. And by 4 o'clock p.m., that relief and excitement had been washed away as far as pretty much every Dolphins fan on the face of this planet, including yours truly. It was a game that is going to be quick, hopefully quick to be forgotten for Dolphins fans. But I don't know if it's going to be that easy just by the pure just disappointment of what we saw on that football field from the Auckland Orange, man.
Well, unless you were under a rock all week, the Miami Dolphins didn't just put together the worst week one performance. It was the worst week one performance by a mile, losing to the Indianapolis Colts 33-8 in a game that never even looked that close.
No.
So, Alex, where do we go for, where do we start? Because, as the Dolphin fan, I'm sure you were thinking this is a game we can win, and then we poop the bed.
Yeah. It's there's so many places you can start. I think you have to start with number one himself. It obviously one of the main storylines for the Dolphins coming into this season was can Tua stay healthy. That for if you ask the majority of Dolphins fans, the season was going to be fully reliant on if the Dolphins or if Tua Tagovailoa could stay healthy at least almost every game, if not ideally all of them. And I think it was a little less so concerning about his performance as opposed to his ability or his availability, I should say. Unfortunately, on Sunday, Tua left the game. It wasn't because of injury; it was because nothing was going right for him. And I've been a huge Tua supporter since the day he was drafted. Since Roger Goodell in his basement called his name and pronounced it wrong. I still support him. He's still my quarterback. But man, what we saw on Sunday was a shell of what we know we can get from Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, the biggest knock, obviously, is his health. But behind that, the number one thing I see people complain about Tua with is once he gets past his first read, if his first read is covered, he does not have the ability to extend a play and make something happen. His mobility has gone down the gutter since his rookie and sophomore year, and it just seems like when that first read is gone, because that Mike McDaniel offense is so about getting the ball out quickly, finding those speedy receivers across the middle or on a deep post or on a go route, and getting the ball out of Tua's hands quickly. And man, it just seemed like without that first option being open, he just looked frazzled. He looked scared. He looked nervous. He looked like he had no idea what to do. And it was something that we saw all game from him. I mean, that first interception was just horrible, complete overthrow. What, 2, 3 plays later on the next possession, he gets a sack, which, I mean, a strip sack fumble. And, I understand, the offensive line has to do better. And, James Dane, and I'm going to get to this later, but, not losing a starting offensive lineman so early in the game doesn't help. But you got to have some sort of awareness, man. You got to know that pressure's coming and either just drop quick or throw it away. Take an intentional grounding for all I care. But the worst thing you can do in that situation is have that ball knocked out of your hands and give it right back to the Colts. And I think point number one is just the disappointment play that we saw from number one himself. I mean, he could never make any sort of connection with his receivers. And I'll tell you one thing, man. It was a move I hated when it happened, and I think it's going to have season-long repercussions. I really think he missed Jonnu Smith out there. Having that big body, consistent check down, comfort guy, defenses are trying to take Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill out of the game. And that's where Jonnu Smith thrived last season. That's why he had the best season of his career last season, because he was that guy that Tua knew if Tyreek or if Jalen Waddle were covered, he could find Jonnu Smith somewhere there as a safety valve in the middle of the field. And he just looked lost without having that option.
Yeah, and in many ways, Darren Waller has gone into Mr. Incognito because I have no idea if he's ever going to play for the Dolphins. And Tua looks lost. I mean, Miami's offensive line wasn't great without Taron Olmstead. Having a couple injuries, not helping.
Yeah.
But, the offense looked pathetic. I mean, Miami put up, let me see, how many total yards? 211 total yards. How can a team with Devon Achane, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle put up 211 total yards of offense? The Colts doubled you in total offense.
Yeah.
I mean, Devon Achane, he did get a touchdown, but Tyreek Hill only got 40 yards. Jalen Waddle got 30 yards. I mean, who is this guy? Tanner Connor?
Third string tight end.
Oh, gosh. Not exactly Mike Gesicki, but that's a story for another day. Offense was bad. And I think you would agree with me. We all like Mike McDaniels. Play calling, he's a little nerdy like me. Like, I don't know Mike McDaniels on the autism spectrum. But I think Miami's teams have become soft.
Yeah, and that's been the narrative. I mean, that's been the narrative for the last year or so. I mean, he's a quirky, nerdy looking guy. He wears the low cut joggers and the nice shoes, and he's got the glasses, and he tries to pull off like the cool guy bravado, but he's definitely he's definitely no Dan Campbell out there, to say the least. And I think. I definitely think there has been, a level of softness to the teams in the past. We've heard former players calling out the team. Jalen Ramsey, for example, calling out the team. Javon Holland calling out the team.
And by the way, did you see the tackle that Jalen Ramsey made on Garrett Wilson the play Jalen Ramsey made on Garrett Wilson the other day?
I mean, Xavier Howard recovered a fumble in the game against Miami this weekend. And I'm glad you brought up McDaniel, because that was really the next point I was going to get to is, the play calling that we have grown to know and love by Mike McDaniel, those pre-read those pre-snap motions, the trickery where Tua's, looking this way and flicking a shovel pass to Achane up the middle, all of that is great. We weren't able to see any of it this week because the game plan's thrown out the window when you're down 30-0. But what frustrated me, what's really crazy is one of the most frustrating plays of the game for me, Dylan. And this is gonna be crazy to a casual fan, but one of the most frustrating plays in that game for me was the Devon Achane touchdown. You've got 4th and goal on the 11. And you're throwing a swing pass to your running back who has to then take it 12 yards to get to the end zone. I mean, granted, Devon Achane, bless him, he's probably the only Dolphins player you can buy a jersey on or jersey for right now, maybe other than Chop Robinson. But bless him for making the play, making I think 4 guys miss and just bulldozing his way into the end zone. But why are we throwing a swing pass on 4th and 11 on 4th and goal? There's no chance for a first down. It's not like you can get to the 2 and get a first down. It's 4th and goal from the 11-yard line. You're practically throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage and giving it to the smallest guy on the field and telling him to make a play. Granted he did, and I don't know if maybe that wasn't the play call. Maybe it wasn't a designed swing pass to Achane. It sure looked like it was. And then I'll put some of the blame on Tua for throwing that pass. I understand it. Achane took it for a touchdown, but that was 100% on Achane. I fault Mike McDaniel for the play call in that situation. And if it wasn't the play call, if it wasn't a designed swing pass, I fault Tua for throwing the ball at the line of scrimmage, if not behind it, on 4th and goal from the 11 when you're down 4 possessions. Like I said, Achane made a fantastic play to get the ball into the end zone. But what are we doing? I mean, get the ball in the end zone. It's crazy to me that the only points we scored in the entire game is one of the most frustrating plays for me, because that's this thing. Those are the things that we see from Mike McDaniel that sometimes make me want to pull my hair out. It's like, yeah, when it's first or second and 10 in the first quarter, he can design a great play that'll get us a chunk play. But when we're in crunch time, when they're in a 2-minute drill before halftime or in the fourth quarter, it just seems like his creativity goes out the window and he makes some head scratching decisions. And granted, it went for a touchdown, and props to Achane for that. And I give Tua and I give McDaniel some luck that Achane brought it in, because boy, if he didn't, I guarantee you that play would have been rolling over and over and over again, and people would be calling for McDaniel's head. It's just I love the idea of Mike McDaniel, but it just seems like, and it hurts me to say it because, man, that 2023 season was so much fun, but it really seems like Mike McDaniel is better suited to be an offensive coordinator in the National Football League. You can have that creativity without having to have the full responsibility of a 53 grown men franchise. And I'm not sure if I'm going to get into this a little bit later. I'm kind of jumping the gun on it, but I'll tell you what, Mike McDaniel's seat was pretty warm going into this season, and it's got to be on fire after week 1.
Especially when you could have drafted Justin Herbert. Oh, wait a minute. I think that guy beat some team called the Chiefs and some quarterback named Mahomes in Sao Paulo, right?
Yeah. And that's obviously in Dolphins land, that's a huge point of controversy as well. Honestly, Dylan, I think Justin Herbert is an insanely gifted quarterback. I think he's got a rocket of an arm. He's the big stature, big build guy that you want to see as an NFL quarterback. I don't know if he'd be successful in Miami. It just seems like it frankly, and this is so point 1, Tua looked terrible. Point 2, Mike McDaniel, questionable decision making at best. This team was very clearly not ready to play in this football game, and I put a huge emphasis on that loss to Mike McDaniel. But point 3 comes from the top, and that's Chris Greer, man. This
9 years and 0 playoff wins.
Longest general manager playoff win drought in NFL history. I mean, this isn't even about the game, but it translates directly to the game. The decisions that this man makes, how he still has a job is just beyond me. I mean, the Chris Greer way, and I'll lay out for you the perfect candidate of a signing of a tradee for Chris Greer. The perfect candidate in his eyes is a guy he can get at a discount because they're coming off of an injury. It's a name that fans in NFL circles know. It might not be the biggest name. It's probably a guy who you heard making plays 3-4 years ago. And it's a guy who he can get at a discount because he's coming off of some injury, and he is putting faith in the Miami Dolphins training staff, who is a whole nother topic of conversation. He's putting faith in the Miami Dolphins training staff to get that player rehabbed and on the field and back to pre-injury form. And we've seen it time and time again. We've seen Darren Waller, who has yet to make a snap. Who knows if he's ever going to take a snap for the Miami Dolphins? We saw it with the linebacker from the Bucks, Lavonte David, we signed last offseason, who never played a snap with the Miami Dolphins. We saw it. I mean,
You mean Shaq Barrett? You mean
Shaq Barrett. You're right, Shaq Barrett.
Barrett.
I mean, and now James Daniels, the offensive guard, arguably the biggest splash we made in free agency this year, was a guard who just came off of a lower leg injury last season. And it's so hard for these players at the competitiveness and the physicality level that the National Football League is for a 17-game season. We're not even playing 16-game seasons anymore. For these guys to be recovering from serious, season-ending or whatever, career-altering injuries, to be expected to go back to the level that they were at before these injuries it's not a sustainable model. And the biggest thing is he moves on from young homegrown talent, players that we drafted, players that we maybe not have drafted but have picked up as free agents who didn't really make a big name for themselves, and then became big players, and he lets them go. I mean, just watching Andrew Van Ginkel sniff out screen passes and almost take them to the house for the Vikings, it makes me sick, man. I mean, understandably, Christian Wilkins didn't necessarily work out for the Raiders, but at the time, he was one of the biggest names on the team. I mean, you see guys like even lesser-known guys. I mean, Brandon Jones was a safety, which for Miami for the first couple years of his career, and now he's flying in the Denver Broncos secondary. I mean, it's just there's so many times where we have guys who you don't have to pay. Christian Wilkins was going to have a massive contract, and I understand we couldn't pay him. But there's guys like Andrew Van Ginkel who are signing for practically veteran minimums at other places that we're replacing with Matthew Judon, or it's just, and no disrespect to Matthew Judon, he made a couple. I remember he laid out Daniel Jones on a play in this game, but it's just the Chris Greer way is unsuccessful. It hasn't ever been successful. He's been with the franchise since 2000. He wasn't general manager that entire time, but he's been with the franchise since 2000. I think he might be the curse. It's mind blowing how Chris Greer still has a job with the Miami Dolphins.
And you know what might have been worse than the offense? The defense. You made Daniel Jones look like he was Peyton Manning.
I know, man. I mean, if you would have told me that Daniel Jones had 2 rushing touchdowns against us in week 1, I mean, Tyler Warren, anyone who drafted him in fantasy drafts is probably licking their lips. I mean, I'm sure Tyler Warren fantasy owners are wishing that they'd be playing Miami every single week. I mean, it's just Jonathan Taylor.
Obviously, one fantasy owners wish the Colts was still in the AFC East, but that's a story for another day.
It's a very good point. It was just, I mean, Daniel Jones, 22 of 29, 272 yards passing. Jonathan Taylor ripped it for 71 yards rushing. Daniel Jones himself had 26 yards rushing. Michael Pittman, I mean, and the craziest thing is none of these are insane stats. I mean, Michael Pittman went 6 for 80 and a touchdown. It's a great day. Tyler Warren went 7 for 76. Behind that, I mean, you got Alec Pierce with 1 catch for 36. Jonathan Taylor for 3 for 27. I mean, DJ Giddens had 41 yards on the ground. No one really blew the top off, but they didn't need to because they had the game controlled the entire game.
Teams are going to be win or lose games based on, plays, so like one team being infinitely better. I don't think I think the New York Giants are ready to play. It's just New York didn't have an offensive line, and Russell Wilson is now not Russell Wilson. I think Sierra may be the best quarterback in that family, but that's a story for another day. I think the New Orleans Saints are ready to play. I think the Cowboys are ready to play. The problem with Miami, and I think you would agree with me, is that the Dolphins were not ready to play. And that's on the head coach.
Absolutely.
I mean, Tua was under duress the whole game. I'm going to ask you this question now, but there've been all these rumors about Tyreek Hill Hill. It seems like he's got more paternity suits and more off the field issues. Is it a question of when the Dolphins trade Tyreek Hill, not if?
Yes, it is. Unfortunately, and that was going to be, one of the next points I brought up is when you talk about preparing for the game and being ready for the game and being ready for the season. When you think about the Miami Dolphins and the news that's been circulating around them for the last 2 months, through OTAs, through preseason, through mini camp, through training camp, it's Tyreek Hill and his divorce and his accusations and him and Tua, are they on the same page? Oh well, Tua's saying, we're still growing the relationship, we're still repairing the relationship. Oh well, Tyreek Hill's not voted a captain. I promise you, if Tyreek Hill was voted a captain, I probably would have just left my fandom altogether, because that would have been the craziest thing I've ever seen. But all of these news, it's not about bonding. It's not about growing. It's not about putting the work in it and making sure that you've got your responsibilities, that that this motion is coming on this play. I saw Tyreek Hill line up in the wrong formation, on multiple times on Sunday. And it's like, you've been part of this offense for 4 years now. I understand we've had some different offensive coordinators, but this is Mike McDaniel's offense. You've been running this offense for 4 years. How do you not know where to line up? It's week one. How do you not know this? It's week one in season 4. And, you know, the word, I know the questions about Tyreek Hill and trading. The problem is, obviously, there's teams who would be happy to take Tyreek Hill. I mean,
Maybe the team in Kansas City,
the
but
low-hanging fruit choice is the Kansas City Chiefs. The problem is, what are you going to get for him? He's an aging receiver who put up his worst year of his career last season, who's in the news for all the wrong reasons, who's got these pending court cases, who is stirring up drama with his teammates, who's been stripped of his captaincy, who's been having interviews talking about whether he's committed or not, who's having interviews at the end of last season saying that he's done with the team. Like, the value, I mean, you look at
sounds
Tyreek.
like sounds like
Imagine the trade deadline in 2023, the market that Tyreek Hill would bring in. It would be multiple first round picks.
I mean, maybe looking back on it, Miami's biggest mistake was giving Tyreek Hill that second contract,
Yeah,
especially when Jalen Waddle's a top whatever wide receiver.
but it's understandable. It's understandable why they would, because at the time he was the most electric player in the National Football League. I mean, he was voted number one by his NFL peers in the top 100. Like, that 2023 season was special, and I understand wanting to extend that. The problem is that it fell off the cliff. Mike McDaniel cannot keep that momentum going. Chris Greer made some terrible decisions. Tua Tagovailoa gets injured and then he declines. And it's like, now all of a sudden you're in a situation where you're paying Tua a gigantic contract. You're paying Tyreek Hill a lot of money and you've extended him. And now you feel like you're stuck with him. But you're not gonna. I mean, if the Dolphins get a 5th round pick for Tyreek Hill, you gotta be grateful for it. It's just such. He should be traded, I think, because you have to. I I just don't see how it can be turned around. I don't see this 2023 Tua, Mike McDaniel, Tyreek Hill offense coming back. And at that point, you may as well start moving your way forward. And I think doing that is getting rid of the biggest cancer on your team, because it's at the end of the day, you have to be together as a football team, and Tyreek Hill is not helping that. He's not helping us on the field really, and he's not helping us as far as team chemistry and locker rooms go. The 1 year anniversary of his last 30+ yard reception was the other day. Over a year since his last third time. We're talking about Tyreek Hill.
I think I remember. I think I remember that game if my memory serves me right.
Yeah, it was against your Jaguars, and we got lucky to win that game if it wasn't for Travis Etienne coughing the ball up on the goal line. I mean,
And
it's
and police letting Tyreek Hill go. But that's story for another day. And Tyreek Hill go, but that's story for another day.
It just seems like we're in purgatory, man. And I'm gonna make a very bold claim. It's gonna be my closing argument here, but I gotta.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll save it for the end, but Miami's got New England this weekend. Patriots lost to the Raiders. You know it's going to be hot at Hard Rock. So, what Dolphins team do we see this weekend against Drake May and the Fighting Vrabels?
Here's the thing, man, and I'm wearing a Dolphins shirt right now. Like, I will always support this team as crazy as they drive me and as angry as they make me. I will always love this team. I will always support them. And it might be delusion. It might be I might have drank the crazy sauce, but I do think Miami has the ability to bounce back. In this game against I do think they have the ability to bounce back in this game against New England. Tua has never lost to the Patriots as a starter in his career. Um, you know, I was very surprised to see New England lose to the Raiders. I think maybe the Mike Vrabel, Drake May, storyline that everyone's been talking about, it probably still needs some time and maybe a couple weeks to really get the wheels rolling. I do think that they have potential in that team. But I do think it is a decent bounce back situation. The entire team knows how bad it went on Sunday. And if there was ever a moment, an in division game against one of your biggest rivals in Miami, where you know that the Dolphins always beat the Patriots in Miami, it's not a bad bounce back game. And I do think we have the potential to see Miami go and win this game. I do think the potential is there, but just as easy, man, it could be another 33-8. We're really going to find out this week if week one was a fluke and week one was just a matter of, there was a lot of former Dolphins on that Colts defense, and they had a very solid executed game plan against Miami. They were just celebrating Jim Irsay, it was in Indianapolis, maybe the Colts were really just riding that high, and who knows, the Colts could have played the Eagles or the Ravens and put 33 points on them. Who knows? I mean, maybe that was just the Colts day, but this week two game is going to tell me a lot. It's going to tell me everything about these Miami Dolphins. I mean, if this game is, I think they can genuinely win this football game. I think it should be close, but I'll tell you what, man. If it's another butt whooping, there's going to be.
Mike McDaniel won't make it to Halloween.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can fire him after week two, but I don't know. The bye week is probably his marching orders. If
One problem: Miami's bye week's week 12 because you are going to Madrid, Spain.
Yeah, I know, but you build this whole. The problem is, it's a death sentence for the team firing McDaniel because this team is so reliant on his offense. So you know that the season's in the gutter if you throw it away, if you fire him. And I'm actually going to lead this into my rant here.
Oh, well, I've
Okay.
got this. You're going to have 1 minute to rant, so you start right now.
Here's the thing. I don't have a lot of optimism for this season. If the Dolphins find a way to make things click and turn it around, I will be happier than can be. I don't expect it to happen. And if we see Tua get injured or we see any more of the Tua that we saw this past Sunday, there is only one answer for the Miami Dolphins. I know the cap hit is ridiculous. I know his trade value is probably in the gutter, but the only way to move forward as the Miami Dolphins organization is a full clean house. If we see what we saw this past week continue throughout this season, Tua, Mike McDaniel, Chris Greer, all three of them, they got to be gone. You cannot restart with only getting rid of one of them. If you get rid of McDaniel and you keep Tua and you keep Greer, Greer's not going to make the right decision on a head coach. I promise you, he's not going to make the right decision on a head coach. And I don't think any head coach would want to join the team with that situation. If you get rid of Chris Greer and you keep McDaniel and you keep Tua, you're going to see the same product that you see on the field. And if you get rid of Tua and you keep McDaniel and you keep Greer, I don't trust those guys to be able to develop a new quarterback coming in. The only way you can move forward as the Miami Dolphins is to chop all three heads off and start over fresh. Whether it's a rookie quarterback, draft a rookie in all 7 rounds next year, or draft a quarterback in all 7 rounds for all I care about next season. You can't cut one head off. It has to be all or nothing for the Miami Dolphins. If we see any sort of a resemblance moving forward this season from what we saw this past Sunday, if Devon Achane gets 7 carries again in a game for the rest of in any game for the rest of the season, I don't care if we're down by 50, give Devon Achane the ball. All 3 heads have to be gone. And that is the only way. And you can even throw Stephen Ross in there too. He can sell the team. It's never going to happen. He's got too much going on with that Formula One track and that
And
whole down there.
Miami's got the number 1 facilities in the NFL for one, I hear.
Right. But the only way this Miami Dolphins franchise, and I'm saying I still think there's potential for this team to turn it around. There's too much talent on that roster to have a bottom 3 team in the NFL. But if it happens, or even a losing record at this point, a 6-7 win team, the only answer moving forward is getting rid of all 3. It is the only way you are going to see any sort of a revival from the Miami Dolphins franchise.
All right, Alex. So maybe the New England Patriots will be your light to start off the season, or maybe it will sputter into black abyss.
Yeah. It's going to go one of 2 ways, Dylan. It's either going to be a very much needed victory, or it's going to be a loss to his first loss against New England in his career that is going to hurt Dolphins fans deeply.